Hey everyone, I'm Captain Jack. Welcome back to the School of Applied Energistics 2. In March of 2015, over 7 years ago, we released a 4-part AE2 video series that collectively became our most watched series to date. Clocking in at over 2.2 million views, thousands of modded Minecraft players have relied on our series to give them all the knowledge needed to construct an intricate and efficient AE2 network. Now, in 2023, we've redone the entire series and included all the newest blocks and changes, so the next generation of Minecraft players have a current source of information to rely on. The new series is longer and contains even more detailed explanations of nearly every item in AE2, with real in-game applications included in each video to better teach you the mod. In episode 1, we'll be showing you how to set up your very first network. In episode 2, we'll be covering a massive range of blocks and items too numerous to mention here. This is the longest video by far, clocking in at over 40 minutes. While this may be too much for most people to digest in a single setting, I had trouble finding a reasonable spot to split the video, so for your convenience we've added timestamps in the description below so that you can easily jump to any part of the video that you need to. This will be true for each episode. In episode 3, we'll cover auto-crafting. Episode 4, which is a little more recent, recorded 4 years ago on a different version of Minecraft, will make a reappearance in this series because the content really didn't change enough to warrant a whole new video. Here, you'll learn all about advanced networking and P2P tunnels, which are some of the most complex multiparts in AE2. Finally, in episode 5, we'll cover spatial storage. These videos are recorded on all the Mod 7, Minecraft version 1.18, but since so much changes for the early game in 1.19, I've included another video which explains the new Certus growth process and the automation of it. The link is in the description below. This series is a culmination of well over 50 hours worth of work between setup, recording, and editing, and we hope you appreciate the outcome. Enjoy the series. The first thing we're going to do is collect all the resources and go through all the processes necessary to make your very first AE2 network. AE2 adds in ore generation in the form of Certus Quartz ore, and when you mine it, you'll get a little bit of Certus Quartz dust. You'll also need to make sure you have access to Nether Quartz ore, so that will require a Nether portal. One thing that you'll have to do is to venture out in the world and find a meteorite. They look like this. They're really easy to spot, and if you have a big map like this, they're super simple to find because they're just big giant craters with a lot of devastation around them. And once you find a meteorite, there's a few things you're going to be interested in. You're going to want to get a bunch of skystone because this will be important later on and it will be used in some crafting patterns later. And then you're going to want to get these 6 Fluix blocks that are surrounding a skystone chest. Inside the skystone chest, you're going to find 1 to 4 presses, and the presses are going to be used later on in the mod. Now you can also just go ahead and craft the presses with various types of skystone blocks surrounded by iron, so you don't technically have to find the meteorite. What's good about the meteorite in version 1.18 is that these Fluix blocks can really give you a jump start, get you some Fluix crystals really early on so you don't have to worry about growing them up, and you can jumpstart your network sooner. Now this does require a charged Certus Quartz to make, but if you're having trouble finding a meteorite, you can go ahead and craft a meteorite compass. This, when you're standing in the world, will point you in the direction of the nearest meteorite. Once you get close to the meteorite, the little indicator on it will begin to spin, and you know that you found it. For some reason it starts to spin, but you don't see the meteorite. It could be buried underground. We'll also have a few tools to work with. There's a Certus Quartz wrench, a Nether Quartz wrench, and a network tool. The Nether Quartz wrench will probably be the easiest to craft since it only requires simple vanilla ingredients. We'll talk about the network tool later when we cover some more advanced things. 2 essential crafting components for AE2 are the Certus Quartz crystal and the Fluix crystal. Before we can get Fluix crystals, we're going to have to craft Certus crystals. To do that, combine sand and Certus Quartz dust in a shapeless crafting grid, and you'll get a Certus Quartz seed. Once you have the Certus Quartz seed, throw it in some water, and it's going to grow. This is quite a lengthy process, so I would recommend going ahead and creating some Certus Quartz seeds, throwing in some water early on, and then just going to do something else. 20 minutes later, you'll be able to collect your Certus Quartz crystal. This process can be sped up to 24 seconds at its fastest with crystal growth accelerators, which we'll talk about in a second. Before we grow Fluix crystals, we're going to need a charger. The charger is very simple to make. Recipe's right here, and all you have to do is hook it up to some power and throw a Certus Quartz crystal in there, and it will charge it up, and you'll have a new item, a charged Certus Quartz crystal. Keep in mind that the front of this machine will not accept power, but the backs and sides will. AE2 does add in a generator in the form of the vibration chamber. Simply supply it with some carbon-based fuel, burn it up, and it will create power for your charger. If you want to simply automate the charger, you can hook it up to some vanilla hoppers, put in some Certus quartz crystals here, it will charge, go down, out the hopper, and into the chest, just like that. To create Fluix dust, take some nether quartz, redstone, and that charged Certus quartz crystal that we just made, throw it in a little bit of water, and it will turn into Fluix dust. Once you have your Fluix dust, just combine it with some sand to make a seed, throw the seed in the water, and it will grow into a Fluix crystal. Throughout the growing process, the seed will change a few times so you can kind of tell how far it is progression-wise, and if you want to, you can mouse over in your inventory and see what percentage that it's at. Bear in mind, these items will not despawn, so you don't have to worry about throwing them in water, leaving, and coming back and having no items. Now, we definitely want to speed this process up, so we're going to take some of the Fluix crystals that we made and craft our first growth accelerator. When you place your growth accelerator down in the world, make sure you're placing it like this and not like this with the little circle thing pointed up. The water needs to be on the side surface, just like this. Place some water above it, hook it up to some power. Bear in mind, it will not connect to power on the side like this, just the side with the little circle, and once it's in there, the crystal will begin to grow at a much faster rate. You can have a maximum of 5 growth accelerators, and ideally, this is where you want to get to as soon as possible. This will make it so you can grow seeds in 24 seconds, really simply. In order to grow the seeds faster, the growth accelerators do need a constant source of energy, so you can create this simple block called the Energy Acceptor, which will accept mods from various different other power generation mods, and allow you to pipe them into the accelerators with glass cable. If power is potentially an issue, you can craft this little thing called an ME toggle bus, which basically will stop power or channels from flowing through the cable when a redstone signal is applied. So right now everything's off, but if I flip the switch, the power is going to go from the Energy Acceptor into my growth accelerators, and you can see that when they're working, you have a nice bright purple glow plus some little lightning that's going around them. If you have AE2 things installed in your pack, you can just go ahead and make a crystal growth chamber, which will basically allow you to put stacks of seeds inside here, and they'll grow right here without any of this, which is really great. The Inscriber is one of the most integral blocks to this entire mod, and you are going to be using it a lot. You can kind of use this as a crusher of sorts. As long as it has power, you can take Certus quartz crystal or nether quartz crystal, and you can crush them down into Certus quartz dust. Primarily though, the Inscriber is going to be used to make all of our circuits. Really, in order to progress any farther, you're going to have to start making printed silicon. So all you have to do is take some quartz dust, throw it in the furnace, burn it up, you'll get silicon. Take your Inscriber silicon press, put some silicon in the center there, and it's going to burn up, and it's going to create some printed silicon. There's 3 other printed circles, the calculation, engineering, and logic circuit. To make those, put the appropriate press in the top slot here, and you can shift click in, like say a diamond, to make a printed engineering circuit. Finally, these are the recipes for the last step in the process to make processors. Take your printed circuit, a printed silicon, and a piece of redstone in this configuration, put them in your Inscriber, and you're going to get a processor. There's a couple things you're going to want to do at this point. You're going to want to have multiple Inscribers, preferably with a different kind of press for each one, and you're going to want to automate it. Unfortunately, these things are not easy to automate. Not only can you not fit more than one item in each slot here, you have to pipe them in very specific sides. You have to put the printed circuits in the top, the redstone in the side, and the silicon in the bottom. Make sure you provide the block with some power, and once you're done, you can pull out the final version of the item either through the side or through the back. There it goes. Really quickly, as another aside, AE2 Things adds the Advanced Inscriber. In this block, you can put multiple of all of the items that you need to craft inside at one time, and furthermore, you can put everything in one side of the machine, and it will put it in the appropriate slots, and it really is great. Next, make yourself some quartz glass, some formation and annihilation cores, and you're ready to make your first electronic storage block in the form of an ME chest. However, the ME chest is absolutely useless on its own. We're going to need to craft a storage cell. A storage cell is simply a disk that stores all of your items electronically or fluids electronically. To craft these, you'll need to make storage components, and they come in the form of 1K, 4K, 16, 64, or 256. 256 needing skystone dust to create, so make sure you harvested some of that meteorite when you're out in the world. You can also use your ME system to store fluids, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the next episode. Once you have your ME chest powered up and you have your storage cell, right-click on the front or any of the sides and put in your item, storage cell, and there you go. We have a green light, and now we can click on the top of the block to access the contents. Once you reach this point, you're ready to take all of your crap in your little area from all of your crappy chests and just dump them in to your electronic storage. But be aware this does come with some limitations. Once you've filled up your chest and put some items in your storage cell, you can hover over the storage cell to get some additional information. You can see this cell has 466 of 1024 bytes used and 29 out of 63 types. So the 1K storage cell is the smallest of the storage cells and can hold the least amount of items. The bytes are just indicating how much space the blocks inside the storage cell are taking up, and the types indicate how many unique items are on the cell. Once you hit your max of 63 types for this cell, you won't be able to put in any new items, but you'll still be able to put in items that are already in your storage cell, provided you still have any bytes free. You'll be able to get a rough idea of how full the cells are by the indicator lights on the outside of the drives. Green means the cell is completely empty. Blue means there's still some room, but there's a bunch of stuff in there. And red will indicate either the types or the bytes are maxed out. You can see here that a 1K ME item storage cell is capable of storing 8,128 single blocks. Before we move on, let's quickly cover portable cells. Basically what this item is a portable ME chest, and it needs a little power so that you can use it. If you right click a portable cell and it has no power, you basically just get kicked right back out. To charge up your cell, just throw it in a charger, and you can see up in the top left, it's charging slowly. And even if it has a little bit of power, you can still access it and use it. And now you can put items inside of here. If we compare a 1K regular storage cell with the portable cell, you can see that the portable cell can store far fewer items than your regular storage cell. But this thing is really neat because you can just take your stuff everywhere provided that it's charged, and it becomes a huge backpack. One nice thing that you can do with these cells is you can disassemble them by shift right clicking when you have them selected, and you'll get the components back. Just like that. If you try to disassemble a cell when there's stuff on it, you're going to get an error message, thank God, and it won't disassemble it and you won't lose all your stuff. Salvaging your lower tier cells for parts for bigger storage is definitely something that you will be doing. Personally, I feel like the ME chest is really a skippable block, and it's more valuable as a crafting component and other things. What you'll really want to be working towards is an ME drive where you can store multiple cells in one single block. Once you have a drive, make sure it's connected to power. Now, the drive can't be directly connected to power. You're going to want to have an energy acceptor or a controller, which we'll talk about in the next video, and then add in your storage cells, and you can see that everything's green and lit up. We need to do an extra step here because unlike the ME chest, we have no way to access the drive directly. So craft a Fluix cable, which is really simple, and then put on an ME terminal onto that, and now you have access to everything inside of your drive. Now, while it's great that you can access all your items through the regular terminal, there's no crafting grid in here, which means that if you want to make something, you have to pull things out individually and throw them in a vanilla crafting grid. Now, we definitely do not want to do that, so make a crafting grid, and this will allow you to craft stuff directly accessing your resources inside of your disk drives and cells. This is basically what your first network is going to look like, and it's a really powerful way and a really easy way to store literally everything that you own on electronic storage inside little disks. Now, I'm not going to go over this in a huge amount of detail, but there's a few things that you can do inside of here. One is that you can take your item, put it in here, and the crafting recipe will output here. And if you only have one in there, it will still use the contents of your cells. So I can pull out multiple oak planks. Then I can make some sticks, put them in here, pull out some sticks, put them back in, and I can clear the recipe by clicking the blocks. One thing to make sure that you have checked off in the settings on the side here, under terminal settings, there's a check mark for sync with JEI search. And basically, all that means is if I search for a torch over here in JEI, and I hover over, hit R, and find the torch recipe, I can shift click that right in there, and bam, I just made a torch really easy. There's also this neat option up here, which has some different things that you can do with moving items around. And this over here is worth mentioning too, the way that you can view your items inside your storage. So if you click on stored items or craftable, and you go to access your stuff and there's nothing in here, it may just be because you have it filtered out so that you only have craftable things showing. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but just don't get scared if you see nothing in your system, even though you can definitely tell that there's items on your disks. I do want to touch on one quick thing before we go. You can only ever have a maximum of 8 devices connected to an ME network that does not have a controller. So, certain things, when you put them on your network, are counted as devices, and we'll get into what counts and what doesn't count in the next episode. But for now, our ME drive counts as 1, our crafting terminal counts as 1, and I've gone ahead and connected some ME chests over here to our network, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 devices. Now let's say I wanted to have another crafting terminal somewhere else on my network. Maybe I wanted to have one on the outside of my house so I could access it instead of on the inside of my house. And you go ahead and put a crafting terminal, everything shuts down. And that's because you have too many devices on your network. And you can see if you hover over this, you can see the tooltip in the top left. It says device missing channel. So if you run into this problem, this is what's causing it. More than 8 devices on one network. And I'll show you how to get unlimited amounts of devices in the next episode. That's going to do it for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to talk about controllers, channels, cabling, devices, power storage on your network, import buses, export buses, so much stuff. AE2 is a huge mod. It's really powerful and it's really awesome. So I hope you guys watch the next video, and I hope this has been helpful for you. If it has, click that thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel for more great content, and as always, guys, stay poised.